we just want to thank you on this day. Lord, we don't need to just praise you on Sabbath. We can praise you on Sunday. And Lord, we can go to church on Sunday. And Monday, Tuesday. Lord, we recognize that you're a good God, and we want to love you and praise you every day of the week. Lord, you've given us a Sabbath as a special day, a sign that you're our Creator, and a sign that you're our Redeemer. And Lord, we sing those words, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. And Lord, we believe it. And we didn't sing it because we think we believe it, we believe it, Father. And we want to ask that you be with us now, that you'd open our minds, you touch our hearts. And Lord, I pray that you be with me. And Lord, I know that I'm not a perfect vessel, but Lord, you showed me things. And I pray, Lord, that the people here today would be blessed by the things they hear. We pray this in Jesus' name. And everyone said, Amen. Okay, so just by way of introduction, my name is Jason Chives. You can call me Jason if you want to call me Dr. Chives or Dr. Jason. You know, I'm still pretty young, so you can still call me Jason. I don't have gray hair, so I don't mind. I answer to all that. Some people have been calling me Kuya. That's works too. But I'm a family physician, and I have an interest in emergency medicine, lifestyle medicine, preventative medicine. I do a lot of mission trips. I enjoy these things, and it's just amazing. It's just, I love, if I wouldn't have been a doctor, I think I would have been a pastor or an evangelist, because I just love sharing God's Word and using science to share God's Word as well. And I had read previously in the last lecture, and you can find this in the Bible, the same principle in the Bible as well. But Ellen White, in the book Steps to Christ, I was reading this on the airplane, just thought, well, this just fits so well. This is on page 10. Steps to Christ. She says, God has bound our hearts to Him by unnumbered tokens in heaven and in earth. Through the things of nature, and I want to say also as well science, through the things of nature, science, and the deepest and tenderest earthly ties the human hearts can know, He has sought to reveal Himself to us. So God is finding ways to show people within our church, people outside the church, His goodness. Another place Ellen White writes that, the lilies of the field and everything has the imprint of the Creator's hand, so people will know that He is God. And, if I wasn't at this lecture, I'd be downstairs because I think that's an excellent topic as well. God is our Creator. But as a Creator, He's also given us information. I talk to patients a lot, and I talk to, I see a lot of, even though I'm a young physician, I've seen a lot of people that need a lot of help. Okay? And one thing I like to tell them is I'm sharing, and you'll get the handout later on from JD, is that if God is real, then He knows what's right for us. If you were to buy a car, let's say you bought a car, right? And you bought, what's a famous car company in the Philippines? Toyota? Honda? Okay, so Toyota or Honda, right? So let's say Toyota or Honda, you got this brand new car. And where would you go? Let's say you don't know how to do something with the car. You don't know where the fuse box is, right? Where would you go to find out where the fuse box is? The owner's manual, right? Well, what else is inside the owner's manual? Like what type of gas to put in the car, how to take care of the car, how many miles it needs an oil change. Why do you believe Toyota's manual? Why do you believe Toyota knows the answer on how to take care of that car? Because Toyota created the car. So I say these things a lot to you got to find analogies when you talk to people. You go to the maker of the vehicle to find out the best way to take care of the vehicle. If you want to know how to take care of your health, you got to go to the maker, the manufacturer, to find out. And there's an owner's manual. This isn't a Bible, but you go to the Word of God. You go to God's Word, and He will supply those answers to you. What's kind of funny too is I'll tell you later. Remind me of the story I can tell you about one of our presidents, okay, in the United States. But I just want to share with you, the health message was not something that was always attractive to me. It wasn't something that I really embraced. In fact, I mentioned the last hour, it was something I really didn't follow. It was something that when I first became an Adventist, there was people that were kind of really mean with the health message, and it kind of drove me away from it. But through many providences, I shared kind of my testimony last hour, how God showed me that He wanted me to really take it seriously. I'm where I'm at as today in health work. But let's talk a little bit about the Adventist health message, specifically dealing with nutrition. This is my family here. We did and I just want to put this up here because nutrition is not the only thing that we need to talk about. I think many people I know in our country, Adventists, we do a good job of talking about being vegetarians and doing this or doing that, but we don't do a lot of exercise, And so this is I like to run a lot now, and I've started to run, and this is the first marathon I've done. You guys know what a marathon is? Yeah, you run, it's about 26 miles. How many kilometers is that? 52 kilometers. 42 kilometers. And it was a great experience. And so we had almost my whole family do it with me. This is great. It was last year. And I want to do it more. Have you ever done one? No, not yet. You're going to do one? Huh? Yeah. So those on the right, this is my father. You've seen him. He's doing the series on prayer. He did a half marathon. When he was in the Marine Corps, he had done marathons before. I'm trying to work on him to see if we can get some of the... I'm trying to work on him to get back into running and exercising so he can get a little bit of this off, Because I'll show you some pictures. When he was a Marine, he was, really buff. And but we did the marathon. It was great. And the health message is something that I think is a beautiful message, and I want to share with you some of the things that I've found. So Adventists in health, why? Well, I'd like to share with you guys some stories about the early church and why the health message became important. Share with you a vision that Ellen White had, the Spirit of Prophecy, some of the science that shows and points and validates the things that we've always known. Go to the scriptures and then share with you some of my sources. And I'll have my website up again too if you'd like a copy of this, and you can share this with others because it doesn't really matter who does it. We just need to get the word out there. Amen. We get it out there. So let's start off with stories. So a church is born. When was the Adventist church born? What year was that? Do you guys know? 1951? No. 1792? 1492? 36 AD? You guys know? Okay, well anyways. Well, the Adventist church wasn't born then, but there was a great disappointment, a great appointment. That was 1844, and subsequently in 1869, the Adventist church was born. It was actually inaugurated. But the great appointment, I call it the great appointment because it was an opportunity for us to get back into the Bible and to study it, and the Adventist church was born from that. It was a call to Bible study. They got it wrong, and it's okay to admit they got it wrong, but they went back to the Bible, and praise the Lord, they got it right after that. Well, they were studying the Bible, and they were like, wow, we found all these truths, and it's amazing what we found. We need to tell the entire world, because it says in Matthew chapter 24, verse 14, that the gospel of the kingdom, should you guys know this, shall be preached in all the world as a witness to all nations, and then what happens? The end shall come, right? And so they found that, there's all these churches that had the Bible in it, but there was no church really that every single teaching they taught was based specifically on the Bible. I have friends that are Catholics, good people, but when you talk to them, they'll, if they know their stuff, they'll really admit that, the Bible is not the main source for all their teachings. I have a catechism at home, and they've changed the Ten Commandments around, and, they're like, what, the Pope has the power to change the things in the Bible. So as a Protestant, as a person that protests against that, it's nice to be a part of a church that the entire teachings are based on the Bible. It's not just a little bit of Bible here and there with some tradition. So with this, a church is born. Revelation 14:12. I'm gonna have some quizzes throughout. So I'm gonna test you. Okay, you're in school, you're in a classroom. This is a chalkboard and everything. So be prepared. All right. So Revelation 14:12. Read this together with me. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. And they're like, wow, it's the commandments and the faith of Jesus. And we have to tell people about this because we have a message to share. Well, some of the early pioneers, this is a guy named James White. Ellen White's one of the early pioneers as well. Her husband was a preacher, a Millerite preacher, very hard worker, dedicated Christian man, but he was frequently sick. And he got sick a lot. He almost died in the 1850s. I think he was about in his early 40s. And he almost died in the 1850s. Actually, I'm sorry, he was in his early 30s. He almost died in the 1850s, but he lived to 1881. What caused James White to live longer? Well, there's another guy, his name is John Norton Loughborough. Jane Loughborough, one of our first evangelists after the Adventist Church was born. He was a hard worker, dedicated Christian, also was sick a lot, and almost died in the 1860s, but he ended up dying at the age of 92, which is a very uncommon age back then, in 1924. What kept these men alive? What was it? Well, some people say, maybe it was because of the high-tech medicine back in the 1900s, right? What was the medications like, and what was medicine like back then? Well, I don't know if you've ever seen, when I was growing up, they'd have these old shows of old Western movies and, people riding horses and stuff, and whenever they would get sick, they would go to the barber. The barber was a surgeon, okay? And sometimes, you get your hair cut and you get your strychnine or your cyanide or your mercury, and it would cure everything. Or you see these people come in on these wagons and they would sell these cure-all tonics and things like that. You think it's a joke, but that's the way health was back then. Barbers were surgeons. Imagine that. If you're a barber, you can cut things off and all that. Cure-all potions versus today. Today, doctors diagnose your problem and treat according to a specific disease. Before, it was like, oh, try this, try that, try this. It was totally different back then. I think you can get a medical degree in 2 months. Use of heavy metals, arsenic, mercury, and strychnine to heal. Tobacco is used as a treatment. So if you had emphysema, if you're coughing, or if you had asthma and things like that, they thought that and I wish I had this with me, but I was reading this old book. It says, if you breathe in the curing and healing air of tobacco, it soothes and it warms the soul as well as the lungs. And that was the treatments back then. Amazing. And inhalation of tobacco. Many people believe that the first American president, George Washington, actually died because of some of these practices. They used to think that bloodletting. They used to think that if you had a fever, it's because you had too much blood. You had an overabundance of blood. You had to keep the things in balance. And so they would get these leeches, or they would cut their wrists and let some of the blood out. And George Washington, he was like, man, I'm not getting any better. You guys don't know what you're doing. And he was like, I don't think you guys are doing it. And so they let out a bunch of his blood, and he was feeling even more weak. And so they got another doctor's opinion and asked him, what do you think's happening? He's still not getting better. You need to let more blood out. And so they cut his other arm and even more blood. And he says, I can't remember the exact quote. He's basically he's like, if I can't live in peace, let me die in peace, And unfortunately, George Washington ended up dying very soon after that. Very sad. So a lot of the medicine back then was hurting people. Draft dodging. People thought that you need to close your ear because spirits would come into your rooms, and that's why people would get these pneumonias, is because the wind coming in. And so it would be very closed, and the air would be stagnant, and people would be coughing, and it would stay in the same place. You would breathe and everything. You find out now, because of the Adventist health measures, some of the things you need to let the air in flow. God created Adam and Eve in where? A garden, right? There wasn't a lot of windows that could close back then, right? So it was in a place where the air freely moved. Okay, here's a quiz question. What text in the Bible states that God's last day church would keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus? What's that? Revelation 14:12. Excellent. What's your name? Oh, you got it? What's your name? Jocelyn? Jocelyn, are you married? Okay, if you're looking for a wife, very smart woman up here, Jocelyn. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm married, I'm sorry. Okay, Jocelyn, very good, that's very fast. Those are Bible too, amen. Okay, here we go. Okay, so spirit of prophecy. So, with that in mind, Ellen White has a vision, okay? And one of her first visions she had, specifically right around the time that a lot of these people, these guys were working and working and working, and God had blessed them with the message, but many of them were dying. They were eating. You guys have heard people say, I have a meat and potatoes diet. You know, I eat meat, potatoes. They didn't eat vegetables back then. You know, they would skip breakfast, have something a little bit for lunch, and they would have this huge dinner, and they would pass out at night. You know, alcohol, they would drink alcohol and things like that, and smoking. Some of our pioneers are actually smokers. Joseph Bates was a smoker. The guy that brought the Sabbath into one of the main people that brought the Sabbath into the Adventist church. He was a smoker. So June 6, 1863, Otsego, Michigan. This vision lasted for 45 minutes. And she went into a vision. She wasn't breathing. They would put up candles up to her mouth and nothing, you know. They tried to move her. These muscle guys would try to move her and nothing, you know. And she started, went to this kind of almost like a trance and came out of it. And afterwards, you guys know much about Ellen White. She only had a third grade education. She didn't finish her schooling because she got hit in the face with a rock by a fellow classmate and was sick a lot. She was constantly sick. And so she did the rest of her training and schooling self-taught at home, homeschool. And this doctor came up to her later and interviewed her afterward because she said, I got this vision from God based on health. And this guy interviewed her and he said, I am amazed that somebody with a third grade education was able to come up with all these health principles. It must have been from God. And afterwards, she wrote down her information about this first health message in a book called Spiritual Gifts. And this is from an office worker. It says, the call for spiritual gifts is so great, we are unable to fill orders as soon as they are received. We have 2 binders working, but not a single copy in the office. I mean, people are eating this up. Like, man, finally something that's not hocus pocus and try this medication, try that. They're like, finally something that might work. Well, this is the vision, okay? So I'm just going to give you the highlights of it. And just straight is exactly what the vision was. Ellen White was told, starting a new diet can correct damage done from a previous one. So, what's nice is just like grace, God forgives and God heals. You can get many benefits, even though you've lived a lot of, I tell people, I have some patients that are 80 years old, you know what, I was smoking or I've been eating this way, why are you telling me this, doc? Well, because if you may live 3 more years, but you may live 10 more years. You know, the body is amazing. You can milk out, so to speak, you can get extra years, even if you're older. Dinner should be light, breakfast is larger. You know, we know this now, eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, dinner like a pauper, right? And so that's becoming commonplace now, but back then people skip breakfast, had a little lunch, and had a huge dinner. And some people still do that today, but we don't think that's healthy anymore, right? A third meal should be rarely eaten. She goes on to specifically say that, 2 meals for most people is actually good enough. She goes on to say, if you are a person that has a lot of exercise in your job, you're a manual laborer, you're burning a lot of calories, 3 meals would be better. But for most people that are brain workers, that work in an office, that are students, 2 meals actually would be better for you. Not only for your weight control, but also it keeps you, because when you guys ever notice that after you eat lunch and you try to go to class, how do you feel? You want to sleep? The longest I've fasted food is 5 days, and during that time, oh man, I had a lot of energy. You would think that I was drinking some juices and stuff like that, but no solid food. And man, I don't do this all the time. I like to eat. Don't get me wrong. There's a reason why God made food that tastes good. We're supposed to eat. But occasionally fasting for medical purposes and also for religious purposes, it actually helps. You find, and I know several pastors that don't eat lunch for potluck if they're going to preach in the afternoon or if they're going to do outreach and Sabbath because you want to do the lay activities, you want to go to sleep and all these types of things. But if you eat large meals, you tend to get sleepy afterwards. Eating between meals injures the digestive system. There's a need, and science actually proves this, you need to rest. Your digestive system needs time to rest. And that's one of the main reasons why you shouldn't eat so late at night. Because the blood really needs to be focused on the brain. Recalculate all the things and processing the thoughts. We're going to be talking about the brain tomorrow, but recalculating things and filing things away. If you're digesting food, it's just sitting there and it's all night long. It's like your digestive system never gets a chance to rest. And eating between meals injures the digestive system. Rich cakes, pies, puddings are injurious. Many die from disease caused entirely by eating flesh food. This was a rude awakening. Nowadays, there's a lot of people, especially in our church, we hear a lot about vegetarians and things like that. Back then, they're like, what's a vegetarian? That's a vegetable? What's that? Before they didn't know what that was. It's becoming more popular now. Sometimes because of Adventists, but there's a lot of religions now that promote vegetarianism. Hindus, Buddhists, things like that. So there's a lot of people, and then even people that aren't religious, they want to do it for environmental reasons or animal rights reasons. But she goes on to say that there are specific diseases caused just because you're eating meat. A poor diet control leads to indulgence in sin. She says that, if you can't control it, and it goes back to what was the first sin on earth? What was it, you guys remember? Adam, what did Eve do? That's right? Yeah, you should know that. Okay. So it had to do with diet, right? It's that temptation. And so she goes on to say that God told her that, if you can't control your diet, you're probably not going to be able to control other areas of your life as well. If your diet is you always eat whenever you feel like it. You're stressed out, you eat. You're sad, you eat. You're depressed, you eat. You're happy, you eat. You can't control yourself. You probably aren't able to control your willpower is probably very weak. So if you work on your diet, and evidently, what was the first temptation that Jesus faced in the wilderness after he was baptized? Eating, right? He was hungry, 40 days in the desert. The first thing he says, turn these stones into bread. Man shall not live by bread alone, right? But everything. So it's something that God wants us to eat. I'm not saying eating is wrong, but who's in charge? Your stomach or you, right? Youth that eat meat and spicy food have strong tendencies towards sexual indulgences. And this makes sense too if you think about it. All the hormones that are in meat nowadays and things like that, it's amazing that she says that if you are specifically having struggle with sexual temptation, which if you're a young person, you are. If you're having struggles and temptations, she's basically saying you are making those temptations that much stronger if you eat meat. If you eat meat products, dairy, all that stuff. Okay, a wholesome diet is unattractive at first to people who use stimulating foods. She says, there are going to be people that don't like it. They're going to say it tastes like cardboard. I don't like the taste of it. But she says if you take the time to change and you give up the other stuff, you will start to hate the old, love the new. This is what happens. Swine should never be eaten for any reason. Pigs, baffle, right? Never be eaten for any reason. Tobacco is a slow poison. People say this back. All the doctors were saying the other thing. Remember we were talking about how it's pure? And so she was ridiculed for this, but we find out now, 100 years later, what do we know about smoking? It's bad for you, right? Wow. How did the third grade education get that? Tea and coffee are slow poisons like tobacco. People are, in our country, the number one beverage is coffee. It's like 80% of Americans drink coffee in the morning. And they say that 30% of Americans state they can't function normally without caffeine. It's the most addictive substance right now in our country. And the science is kind of iffy. Some says it's bad for you, some says it's good for you. When science is like this, because that's the way science was on tobacco, I'm saying let's just wait and see all the facts right, because she's been right on everything else, right? So, keep your body and home clean. That's pretty self-explanatory. A clean home is necessary for health. These are things that are necessary. Bathing after waking up is beneficial to health. When you wake up in the morning, taking a bath in the morning, actually it's a stimulant, especially if you take a bath. Way too long, and it also helps your immune system. And I'm not used to being in the Philippines. You guys think this is cold? I'm used to this is hot. You can see my dad up there. It's always like, oh man. So I'm taking like 3 baths. I haven't washed my clothes off. But yeah, so taking it. And it used to be back then, people took a bath maybe once a week, at most. And so she said, God has told me we need to take baths every day. It's amazing that we need God to tell us these things, right? But that's the way it was back then, Think about it. For most of us now, it's easy. We can just turn on the faucet and take a bath. Back then, you had to, and there's some places in the Philippines I know that are like this. You have to go to the river, the bucket, maybe like half a mile away, and pick it up and then bring it over to your house, and you got to boil it to get all the germs out of it, and then you can take a shower. People didn't like doing it. You know, it was very inconvenient. Parents transmit their weaknesses to their children. Prenatal illness. People didn't think, they thought that when I was, it doesn't matter what I do when I'm pregnant, my child is going to have, it's sealed, because they thought, you know, when you puncture that womb and the water breaks, it's been closed off. But we're finding out, you know, now in the last few years that, you know, if a woman drinks alcohol while she's pregnant, the child is more likely to be mentally retarded, more likely to have lower IQ. If you smoke, the child's more likely to have attention problems. You know, if you're drinking caffeine, drinking a lot of sodas and stuff, increases your chance of miscarriage, spontaneous abortions in the first trimester. You're drinking excessive caffeine. So there's a lot of these things that we don't realize. You know, if you have HIV, you're likely to transmit these things to your child. So, this is not something that people do back then. Light and pure air and sleeping quarters is required. She says, you need to open the windows. Don't paint your windows black. Make it white. You know, I mean, let the sun shine in. And people used to have small windows, cramped up. You know what? For health, you need to feel good in your room. Many people are invalids and psychic issues. Started with some people with mental problems. They were normal before, but they started with their diseased imagination. They would think negative thoughts over and over again. They would dwell on things over again. Eventually, it's because of the way they thought they became that way. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Obeying the laws of health prevent many illnesses. And we're finding out now that it's over 70%. Over 70% of what people die from could have been prevented. They could have lived longer. You know? How many of you guys, I mean, we don't think about it now when you're young people, but think about it. I mean, when the things that you're doing right now will influence whether or not you will be able to see your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, if the Lord doesn't return. Graduate from high school, graduate from college, see those great-grandchildren, those great-great-grandchildren. You're making those decisions today. Whether or not you want to be there. You know, you want to be there for them. Or even just for your children. Physical labor done willingly creates happiness. When we do work, some of us are like, oh, I have to work, you know, I have to do this, I just want to go to school. She says that it's told vision that when and if you read in Ministry of Healing, she goes on and talks about it's not good to just think all the time. People that think, your rest is working. You go out, you need to go out and run. She says, there's a quote in Ministry of Healing, she says, stop everything. Put your book down, run through the woods, and just basically saying, run through the trees and just kind of scream and have a good time, look at the lilies and just roll over and turn around and grab it. Just go take a break. Ellen White was not like this, you know, hermit type of person. She was a very practical, very, very fun person to be around. She liked having a good time. And she enjoyed it. Go out there and just go for a hike. Just go enjoy yourself, you know. Stop always studying all the time. It's not necessary to study your Bible 24 hours a day. God doesn't want you to do that. God wants you to be balanced. You know, God wants you to go out. And that's the type, you know, we think that in order to be a pious, good Christian, we need to always be reading and studying. No, God wants us to be balanced. If He didn't want us to be out there in nature and enjoying it, He would have made nature ugly, right? But it's beautiful because God wants us to enjoy it. Outdoor exercise is very important. While overworking breaks down the mind and body as it just goes, you know, exercise is very important. And we'll be talking about exercise tomorrow as well. Our routine daily rest is necessary. And just kind of as a aside, do you know that, I just want to throw this to you, there are medications, I've been able, you are able to take people off certain medications that deal with mental problems if they would exercise. There are specific people that have depression, psychiatric disorders that we've been able to take them off their medications because they started walking every day. And you can actually lengthen your life by many years. So that's just a little commercial for tomorrow. But anyways, caring for the body is a spiritual matter. We think of it just as a physical thing, but God says, you know, it's an act of worship. When you take time to care for your body, you're taking care of the temple of God. You know, just like the person that sweeps the church, you know, and vacuums and stuff, and make sure the pews are clean. When you take time to take care of your body, you're cleaning the temple of God. You're telling God, I care about what you've given me. You've loaned me. When someone borrows your car and you return it, and it's got dents in it, you know, it's got a, you know, they borrow your motorcycle and it's got a flat tire and it's missing a spoke and, you know, it's got a dent in it. Are you happy? No. But when somebody returns it, and it looks better. They filled up the gas, and it's shiny. They washed it. Like, wow, man, you can borrow my motorcycle anytime, right? Because you took care of it. And God, we really appreciate what God's done for us. We take care of the things because we don't really own our bodies. God has given it to us as on lease. The only mind and body affects one's morals and ability to understand truth. And all God's promises are given on condition of obedience. When we obey, God answers, and then He gives us more. There's two reasons for this. God doesn't want to overburden us with giving us all these information, all these things if we're not willing to listen, because we're just going to feel, oh, there's more things I do, more things I do, and you'll eventually just turn off. You know? God will give you more information and more guidance if you're willing to obey. Also, when you obey, it shows you follow. Are you on God's side or on the other side? You guys understand that? I'm not going to do it? Okay, so let's go on to a little bit more. So, with all this information, those are the basic principles in that 45-minute vision. The other basic principles are like, listen, this is good stuff. We need to tell other people. We can't just tell ourselves. God has given us this information, so we need to share it with the world. So they got this house, they bought this house. This is in Michigan. They called it the Western Reform Institute. And like, we need to start having people come in, and it became so popular. And over time, it was so popular, they made it into business. People are like, man, this is amazing what you're doing. And it became known later on, the Western Reform Institute became known as the Battle Creek Sanitarium. And if you look now, it's amazing. Battle Creek was kind of the center of health in our country for many years. And it was Adventist and Protestant. And if you look, even today, if you look at the back of the cereal box in our country, Kellogg's, Post, all these things, it says Battle Creek, Michigan, Battle Creek, Michigan, Battle Creek, Michigan. A lot of the health came from Battle Creek, and still today. Even though they're not Adventists today, they started that way. They kind of lost the church. But a guy named John Harvey Kellogg, you guys heard of him? John Harvey Kellogg. This guy was an amazing. This guy was like Dr. Oz. You guys ever heard of Dr. Oz? He was like today's Dr. before Dr. Oz. A guy that everyone wanted, the president, people, politicians, famous people used to go to him. He was a Seventh-day Adventist. And very famous guy. They did biographies on this guy. This is his brother. This is Dr. Kellogg. And this is his brother here. He's the guy that took Dr. Kellogg's invention of cornflakes, and he mass-produced it and made it into Kellogg's cornflakes. And that's the whole brand came from that. And and Dr. Kellogg had somebody that worked for him in the Battle Creek Sanitarium that helped him make the cereal. And his name was I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Post. And Post made Post cereal. And so it was they were competing against each other, but they all got their information from Dr. Kellogg on this. And so he was an inventor, one of the most respected physicians during a period of 40 years. Created cornflakes, he invented granola, peanut butter, electric blanket, etc. And he was a convert to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. James and Ellen White actually helped to put him through medical school. And he was indebted to her. And he believed that she was a prophet. And he attributes much of his success to her. This is what he wrote about Ellen White. It is so wonderful to look back over the writings that were given to us 30 years. He's talking about the vision that Ellen White had. To look back over the writings given to us 30 years ago. And then perhaps pick up the next day a scientific or a medical journal and find some new discovery that the microscope has made. It is perfectly wonderful how correctly they agree in fact. It's amazing because one guy asked him, Dr. Kellogg, how come you're always ahead of the rest of the doctors? It seems like you're always 5 years ahead of us. And he said, it's easy. Whenever something new comes out, and I say, this is new experiment, or this new drug, or this new whatever, I look at it and compare it to what Ellen White wrote. And if it agrees with it, then I accept it. If it doesn't, I throw it away. And that's how he stayed in front of everything. And that's, unfortunately, Dr. Kellogg he was a very intelligent man, and a lot of people liked him. He let that go to his head, and he started teaching false things, and he eventually ended up leaving the church. But for a long time, he was a very staunch, great leader for our church. And the health message was very prominent at that time. So true or false? Here's the quiz. The main reason that John Harvey Kellogg stayed ahead of the rest of the other physicians in his days is because he took daily baths and ate cornflakes. Is that no? What's the reason? That's false. No, it's because he gave heed and listened to the things that God showed him through Ellen Okay. But he probably ate cornflakes and took daily baths a day. Okay, so now that's some stories, and then kind of told you a little bit about myself. Now we talked about some of the history and some spirit of prophecy. Now we're going to go into some of the science. Okay. Now the rocks cry out. When God has people that don't always listen to what He's told them, He'll allow the rocks to cry out and other people to say the same thing, and it convicts us. Right? And all of a sudden we're like, oh man, you're saying that. We knew that. We knew it first. Well, how come you haven't been telling people about it? How come we're the ones? How come the Buddhists are going out there and they making vegetarian this and all this other stuff? You know? So anyways, the rocks will cry out. So here we go. Here's the science. So this is a graphic here. Kenneth Carroll, 1975, an epidemiological study, a study of population groups. They basically were trying to find out, is breast cancer, do people die of breast cancer here in the Philippines? Okay, I think specifically, this was back in 1975. Back in 1975, a lot of Filipinos weren't dying a lot from breast cancer, specifically. I think it's increased now because the diet's changed, but they did a direct relation. They said they found a direct relationship between breast cancer death and fat content in your food. So the more fat you eat daily, the higher rates of breast cancer. That's why in the 70s you started seeing a lot of this food where it's like fat-free this and fat-free ranch and fat-free. You guys see these foods, fat-free this, fat-free that, because they saw that fat was causing cancer, specifically breast cancer. So there's a direct relationship here. And so the countries that were doing the worst back then are like Netherlands, Canada, United States. These countries where there was a lot of fat in their diet, and the countries that were doing better with breast cancer, like Thailand was one of the best ones, you know. And their diet was different. They didn't have a lot of fat. They ate a lot of vegetables and a lot of rice and things like that. So fat, where does fat come from? Where does all this fat come from? Do you get fat from mango? Where are you getting this fat from? You get fat from meat, right? That's where the fat's coming from. A lot of dairy and butter and things like that. So in Western countries, the centerpiece, when you go into a restaurant, people don't say, I would like the avocado with a little bit of chicken on the side. No, they say, I like the chicken. I like the beef. And that's the way it is in our country. Maybe it's the way it is here too. But the main focus of the meal, if you look at the plate, is the meat. And then all the other healthy food is just kind of like a condiment or like decoration on the side. And that's the way it is. Asian and South American countries tend to be different. And there's a lot of talk about estrogen. Estrogen is a female hormone, and in a lot of breast cancers has been shown the higher the estrogen levels, the higher the rates of breast cancer. In fact, one of the breast cancer risks is the earlier that women start their periods and the later their periods stop. So let's say, for instance, what's the average age of women starting their periods in the Philippines? 12, 11. What's the average? Like, let's say, like if they go above this, they're like, ooh, what happened to you? You know, 12, right? So 12 is average, right? If you some 11, some 13, but mostly 12, right? So if you had your period, your first period at 10, and what age do most women stop having periods here? Like 45. So let's say that your first period started at 10 and your last period started at 55. That means you've been exposed to more estrogen and your rate of breast cancer goes up. So if you have periods that start, let's just say you had your first period at 25. I mean, it's not common, right? But let's say you had your first period at 25 and then you experience menopause at 35. Very low chance you're going to get breast cancer. Very low chance when it comes to this estrogen, okay? There's some other causes of breast cancer, but specifically this is a major cause, okay? So, Dr. Barnard, Neil Barnard, he's a physician in Washington, D.C. He did a study specifically, and he had two groups of women, like 20 women over here and 20 women over here. And he specifically said, okay, what I want you to do is, all these women, none of them were vegetarians. He said, this group of women, what I want you to do is I want you, for a period, I think it was 30 to 60 days, I want you to eat a plant-based diet. No animal products, no dairy products. Oh man, I don't know if I can do it. And then, because these women, you guys know what PMS is? How come that was a guy? Okay, you know when women get cramps before their periods, things like that, right? You get premenstrual syndrome. So all these women had moderate to severe premenstrual cramps, and they were enrolled into this study. He took half the women, he put them on a vegetarian, plant-based diet, totally vegan, vegan. This other group, he said, eat your regular food, okay? And at the end of 60 days, what we're going to do is we're going to switch groups and see what happens. Well, they had to stop the study because at the end of 60 days, they found that the women that changed their diet, 60 to 75% of the women didn't have the cramps anymore. Just because they changed their diet, they got off the meat products. And so they said, okay, it's time to switch. I'm like, no, we're not going to switch. We don't like this, you know? And so they had to stop the study. So it's great for the women, but it was bad for the science, you know, so menstruation and diet. Back in the United States, the average age of the first period in 1850 was 16 and a half years old. That was average. By the year 2000, 12 years old in our country, same as Philippines. And if you think about it, there's a direct relationship. The diet in the United States in 1850, most people weren't vegetarians, but if they ate meat, it was rare because they needed their cow, you know, to pull. You know, or they maybe had a chicken every once in a while, but they ate a lot of potatoes, they ate a lot of wheat and breads and things like that. They didn't have McDonald's or Jollibee or Burger King, all these things around to just go and eat whatever they want. So there's been an increase. It used to be eating meat was for rich people. You had to be rich. Now it's for anybody. You know, all this fatty food and all this, it's changed. And so they've seen a direct relationship that as the meat increases, you have higher estrogen levels. I know some people that they were born, their parents raised them on a vegan diet, and they are 16 years old and still haven't had their first period yet. You know? And if you think about it this way, it's almost as if God designed it that way. Because once a woman starts having a period, or a girl starts having her period, she's able to have a child. Right? But at 12, is a girl mentally ready to have a child? It's almost as if God wanted a woman's mind to mature at the same time the body matures to have a child. But we have switched it around. You see that? It's almost, you know, I mean, with our diets, we're pushing the numbers down. And when I was in my training, I remember one night I delivered 2 12-year-olds. Yeah. You know, I was delivering babies, and a 12-year-old came in the next, and then a few hours later, another 12-year-old. I was like, man, what's going on? You know? And it was never God's plan for that to happen. You know? So, obviously, in the Garden of Eden, you know, those women probably would have been like 200, you know, because they were living 900 years. But, you know, it would have obviously been later. But that's another point. So God's plan wasn't for these things to happen. Okay, so if that's the case, if that is really true, if the estrogen and the meat changing the diet really makes a big difference back then there should be another example of it in more modern times. Well, after World War II, you guys have heard a lot about World War II in my dad's lectures, right? About the Philippines and the battles and stuff. Well, anyways, after the Japanese were defeated in World War II, they not only embraced, you know, surrender, but they also started embracing American lifestyle and American diets and things like that. During the period of from 1955 to 1973, after the First World War, the Japanese increased their total fat intake by 157%. Animal protein increased by 88%, and the amount of protein they got from vegetables, you get a lot of protein from vegetables actually, decreased by 12%. There was a change in their diet. Well, this happened. What happened to their cancer rates and what happened? What would you guys think if this changed, right? Maybe their diseases would go up, right? Or stay the same? You guys think stay the same? How many of you guys think that the diseases would stay the same? How many of you guys think their diseases would go down? How many of you guys believe their diseases would go up? Okay. All right. How many of you guys don't like raising your hand? No? Okay, all right. Okay. So everyone likes raising their hand. Okay, good. All right. So this is what happened. During this time period, over 25 years, Japan, they had Per 100,000 people, so about on a scale of 100,000 people, so that's like 0.00011% of people, they almost doubled the amounts of lung cancer rates during this period. Colon cancer more than doubled. Breast cancer, up by 50% increase just during the same time period. So their cancer rates increased. They didn't get anywhere close to where we are here, but they're moving in that direction. You see that? They followed women that were getting breast cancer in Japan and found that once women were diagnosed with breast cancer, what is the chance of them dying from the breast cancer? So they've got breast cancer, what is the chance of them dying? They found that women that ate meat on a daily basis had a 6 times increased risk of dying from their breast cancer than women that were vegetarians or hardly ate any meat. Rare. It's amazing. So over a 10-year period, if you ate meat on a daily basis, you had a 6 times chance of being dead in 10 years from your breast cancer than women that weren't. Okay, so what are some meats? So we talked about meat, so let's talk about let's look at the content. What percent is actually fat? So if you look at the leanest beef, 29% fat. If you trim all the fat off and you get your carabao and you're running him every day, training him, and he looks really strong, he's not fat, you cut him up and you eat him. The leanest beef, 29%. Leanest chicken, 23%. No skin. Trout, you guys, type of fish, 32%. Tuna, 16%. Do they eat a lot of tuna in the Philippines? Tuna? 16%. Let's look at the plant-based foods. So we're going to the other kingdom. Broccoli, 8% for fat. Beans, 4% fat. Rice and potatoes, less than 1% fat. And people say, I've heard people say a lot, you know what, doctor, I'm getting healthier. I'm getting away from red meat. You've heard people say that? At least I don't eat beef anymore. I just eat chicken and fish. And back before we used to think that was healthier when it comes to certain types of diseases, but I want to show you something. Specifically with chicken, we found that, have you guys ever heard of something called the heterocyclic amine? There's these proteins, there's an amine group on amino acids. That's where the word amines come from. Amino acids make a protein. When you cook meats a certain way, these amino acids, they form a circle. They circle up, and they've been shown in that shape to actually be more cancer-causing than normal. They become more carcinogenic, and have been shown to cause more cancer. And they found here that grilled chicken, oven-broiled chicken, pan-fried chicken, barbecue chicken, heterocyclic amines are found in these things. There's a big thing like 10, 15 years ago about barbecue and chicken that increased the heterocyclic amines. This is from the National Cancer Institute. And so cancer-causing chemicals in cooked meals, cancer-causing chemicals in cooked meats. They found that if you took a hamburger, a beef hamburger, well done, per gram, 33 nanograms per gram were heterocyclic amines. That's a lot, right? And a hamburger, and well done. Because you want to if you're going to eat meat, you want to get the blood out of it, right? Because that's the Bible doesn't want you to eat blood. But if you eat the meat, you get the blood out of it, then you have this increased chance of cancer. They found that for meat. They found that a grilled steak, a little bit better, not as bad, 30 nanograms per gram. But look at this. Grilled chicken, 480 nanograms per gram. They found that chicken, when it comes to these cancer-causing substances, is through the roof. And so, when it comes to higher fat content, yes, maybe, but when it comes to cancer, you're really playing Russian roulette, that's not even like 48, it's 480. It's more than 10 times. Have you guys heard of the China study? Any of you guys heard of that? Amazing, right? What's kind of interesting, how many of you have heard of the China study? A few of you. For those of you who haven't, I'm just going to give you some snippets of it. This is a guy, his name is T. Colin Campbell. He's a nutrition researcher from Cornell University. An amazing book. There really wasn't much about China, but that was just the name of the book. It's a lot about just a bunch of different research. And this guy, he's probably in his 80s now, but back in the 50s and 60s, he was a part of a research team that was trying to put starvation and malnutrition in third world countries to an end. Philippines was classified as a third world country during the 50s and 60s, and one of the first places they came to was the Philippines. They're like, you know what, these kids are, what can we do to get, they thought, we need to increase their protein, because they don't have enough protein, they're dying. And so they thought back then, well, what we need to do is we need to give them more beef, we need to give them more, this guy, T. Colin Campbell, was raised on a ranch where they raised cattle. This is like, what we need to do is, we can't really, they can't afford the beef, so we have to increase the protein some other way. And so they started planting more peanuts here in the Philippines. And they started noticing that over a period of time that there was kids, small kids coming down with liver cancer. And wow, what's going on here? And so they started looking at it. Wow, this is kind of interesting. They were able to, T. Colin Campbell was the first person to identify dioxin and aflatoxin. And these are carcinogens that come from peanuts specifically. And they found that, on the mold of the peanut, they found that but for some reason, it was only certain types. Not all kids in the Philippines were getting the liver cancer. It seemed to be those kids that came from richer families, wealthier families. Like, man, this is kind of interesting. What's going on? So he found this guy in India that was doing research, specifically with vegetarian versus plant-based diet versus animal-based diets. And so they were like, well, let's try injecting some of this aflatoxin into the livers of mice and see what happens. Well, this is what happened. So they took two groups of rats, and one group of rats, they injected both groups of rats, group A and group B, with aflatoxin. It's supposed to cause liver cancer, right? And the group over here on the right, they put on a regular Filipino diet of protein, And on this one, they put on a 5%, more, not completely vegetarian, but mostly vegetarian diet. 5%, most everything else comes from plants. And they found that over the period of, I think it was about 2 to 3 months, that all the animals